Creating an elaborate drag number from start to finish, part 24. So here's where we are in the track creation. So everything that you just heard was worked out on paper, and I went back and forth a couple of times. I would write something that I thought was a good idea down on paper, I would record it in there, see how it sounded. Sometimes, often, perhaps one might say, it was not very good, so I'd have to come back to the paper, come back to my piano, fiddle around until it was satisfactory. And that's what I did for the past bunch of days. Writing stuff, recording it, rewriting, re-recording, and we have the first 5 measures. And what you just heard is an absolutely raw version of this. I have not made one single volume adjustment. There has been absolutely no balancing. I've been trying to create as good a balance as possible with the orchestration itself. The volume adjustment should just kind of be the cherry on top. The difficult thing about this is that with the relatively sparse knowledge of orchestration that I have, I can't tell if the balancing issues that I hear now are because of the orchestration or are because of the sample libraries. Like, for example, right now, the second violins are dominating. The woodwinds are absurdly quiet. The brass also is super, super quiet. So anyway, what I've decided to do is move on. The game plan essentially is I continue doing exactly what I'm doing until the song is complete. Get a rough draft of the orchestration, and then once the entire track is done, dive in to balance and articulations, realism. So that's the game plan. And in the meantime, I guess I'll try to explain quickly what I've done. So the brass is this middle section right here, and that's the chord. Pretty much everything else is either doubling of the brass lines or chords underneath the brass. Like all of this here, all of this are just elaborations on the simple chords underneath the brass, like all kinds of like shloopy floopy things. And I introduced a triplet rhythm because I plan on using that a lot later, and it's good to get that in there off the bat, even though you can barely hear it right now because of the balancing. So I'm just gonna go through each section and play it section by section so you can kind of try to hear what's going on. I'll start with the brass. Strings. Woodwinds. Percussion, I'm not gonna play it, it's just boom, boom, on the triangle. And putting it all together once more. So that's where we are, and we are going to continue. We're going to be going back and forth listening to the original track now, because this giant tutti here has to disperse, and then the song really begins. This was one of the hardest parts, I think. I had to discover what most of this was by ear. Now the actual A Star Spangled Banner is going to start, and we can mostly just look at that chord sheet that I mentioned a while ago. So moving on to the next section, there's a little transition of about 2 measures, I think it is, to get us from the giant orchestra tutti to simple accompaniment. We're gonna have to once more try to figure this one out by ear. So listen we shall. Something like this. So I definitely hear that pattern on the French horn, and that's what we're gonna start with. And I think that there is actually a line playing in 6th below. So we're gonna write it down. We have the French horn line marked down, and from here it is basically just gonna be an expansion of this that will allow a gradual dying away of all of the big instruments following this. And it is really hard to do this while filming because there's a lot of back and forth. Like I started writing this line in, but now I'm thinking that I might want to change where it ends so it leads into this better. So it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of erasing. There are eraser shards all over my workroom, all over my piano too. I have to be careful. So that's the task for the next couple of days probably, to get this transition down and to get a rough recording of it. That's that, I think. Until next time.